Hi everybody, welcome to the episode. We've got a very special episode for you today. I don't know if any of you are aware of a channel, a YouTube video, lots of videos actually that went out quite a few years ago called the 800-pound Agile Gorilla. Well, guess what? I've got the video man here. Yes, I've got Tan. Tan, hello, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Mandy.
So did I get the title right? Was it the 800-pound Agile Gorilla?
It is the 800-pound Agile Gorilla.
Yeah.
I do like the introduction of the video man. I think that's, oddly enough, I think that's how I was actually referred to, because no one ever saw me on the videos themselves, but everyone saw my, what should we say, gorilla type work in terms of camera shaking.
Oh.
Yeah, awkward audios, but it was a fun experience. It feels so long ago now, but yes, I was the man behind the camera, the person who had to, in some instances, in very awkward settings, walk backwards, because I didn't have a dolly, I didn't have any other equipment, so I had to walk backwards a couple of times, knock into people, especially around the Barbican area. So if anyone's watching, apologies, that was me who bumped into you. It wasn't me trying to be it wasn't deliberate. I just couldn't see.
Yeah, bless you. That was quite a long time ago, actually.
It feels like a long time ago. Yeah.
It was. I'm pretty sure it was more than 10 years. Or was it 8-9 years? I don't know. It was definitely a long time ago.
To be honest, anything before the pandemic feels like a blur, doesn't it? So,
it certainly does. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it feels like time has just started after the pandemic. But I think it was, if I had to put 2016.
Okay, 2016, yeah.
Yeah.
So almost 10 years, like. So.
Yeah, because the first episode was shot around the Islington area by the canals. And I was working in that area at the time, so it'd have to have been 2016.
Fantastic. Wow.
Yeah, and you can see a very young Jem and Tobias on the video.
Yeah, Tobias and Jem. That was great because it was very casual, very conversational, and since then many things have emerged. Lots of things have happened.
Yeah, I think it's a case of and look, this isn't any like judgment on our industry as such.
No.
You see a lot of corporate videos and it's always the same folks with the same white background, with wearing the same shirts in the same static positions. And culturally, I would say for myself at least, and knowing Jem and knowing Tobias, we just wanted to do something different. And wanted to have something, I'm going to use a term which is like, real in commas.
Yeah.
Just something that was a little bit more on the wall.
Yeah.
A little bit more grounded in the city that we live in and the place where we do our work. It just felt the relevancy was a lot higher to just capture something which was a bit more close to reality, in a sense that it's not sanitized in so much in terms of like green screen and what a lot of the other video content at the time was like. And, just give an honest take around their experiences and give something back to the Agile community that just felt was missing. That was kind of the premise and the ideation behind A, why I wanted to do it, and B, why specifically with those two individuals, because they're great.
Yeah, they are. They really are. So this came from you as a kind of idea piece, or was it really joined up?
No, it's joined up. So for anyone who knows Jem, he's an absolute font of inspiration. He really is. Constantly coming up with ideas, constantly ideating. He is an incredibly creative person. And I've been fortunate enough to have known him for a while now and be witness to his creativity. So it was me leaning into his insight around, wouldn't it be great if we could do this? And me turning around and saying, yeah, you know what? I've got a phone, I've got a gimbal. Like, should we just do it? So I'd say it's very much a joint effort in that regards, but he is the catalyst. Yeah,
no, that's brilliant. Jem, thank you. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for doing all the stuff you do. I hope I can interview you one day. So, Tan, I asked this from everybody.
Yeah.
you've done so much, and you've got so much experience in the work that you've done and achieved. I've read some of the reviews that people have given to you. You know, they are just amazing in terms of your commitment, your focus, you know, that passion, whether it's for technology, whether it's for agile.
Yeah, I mean, if I was Uber, I'd probably get 5 stars, right? I mean,
you would. Yeah. You certainly would.
It does feel like that sometimes when you're asking for recommendations, but I'm fortunate to have worked with lots of talented people. So
yeah,
I think any of my achievements is just a reflection on the environments that I've been in and the great people that I've had the opportunity to work with.
Yeah, that's lovely. And we'll actually come back to environments and talking about things like that. I want to ask you, how did it all start for you? Like, where did you begin with your choice of career, how did it all begin? Can you remember?
I don't think I follow a traditional path as such. There's a term, and I will quote someone that worked with me, one of my peers, Erin Davies. She said, "You've got a squiggly career."
I like that.
Yeah. And it's this notion that careers that are not formed on a very linear path, and if I had to be really brutal about it, I think it's problems which have basically shaped my career. So having to face into certain challenges, because I graduated in film and video production. That was, again, the reason why I met Jem very early on in my career. 2008 happened. Mm-hmm. So there was a big societal challenge. People weren't really spending money anymore. Like, the industry became really difficult. I had some health challenges around that time. I got diagnosed with MS. So really, it was a case of something has to fundamentally change. And it was around that period, and again through Jem, where he was talking about Scrum, and I was like, what the hell is that? You know, why are you talking about rugby? Like, you work in an office. Like, what are you talking about? You're a project manager. Like, stop talking about sports with me. But it took a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah, and I just found myself gravitating more towards that through the necessity of having to change because of everything else around me was changing. So that, I think, gave me some of the faculties and perspective that I still have today around embracing change, because my environment was so volatile. So many things would be happening. Like, you would be on set, you know, a piece of equipment would go down, someone will, like, not naming names, but a certain artist would get in trouble and not come to set on time, and I would have to go get them. So embracing change has always been part and parcel of what I'd done. So it took a little while to start connecting the dots, but as and when they did start happening, it just made more and more sense. So the transition in of itself is driven by circumstance, driven by interest, and also driven by the fact that a lot of these skills are interchangeable. So I think hence the squiggly nature of it is being able to operate in one discipline, but then finding it quite comfortable to transition to another. And when I actually did start reading up about Scrum initially, light bulb moments, you know, it all started kind of clicking.
Yeah.
And it just made sense.
Yeah.
So transitioned into Scrum Mastering, and I would still identify as being a lifelong Scrum Master.
Yeah? Why is that, would you say?
Because I think when you look at the role and you look at the impact that it's supposed to have, I'm not going to question the reality of what it is today.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get into that discussion.
Yeah.
But for me, there is an idealism attached to it, which is the servant leadership part, the idea of being able to hold groups of people, systems together, to be a force multiplier, to be a capability within the business to enhance the existing conditions, and then having enough grace and humility around it to not design things to just solely promote themselves. So there's some standards, some ideas within that would just, at a philosophical level, I would say just really aligned with me, and they just made a lot of sense. So I've always held on to those ideals. The idea of constantly being a white belt, every organization I walk into, even when I own my own organization, is to come in from the perspective of I'm here to learn.
Yeah.
Right? Not to assume that I know more than anyone else.
Yeah.
Yes, I've got expertise. Yes, I've got knowledge in certain domains, but I'm also emotionally aware to not use that as a stick, with people.
Yeah.
And I think it's the essence of those ideas that attribute to what I would call even if it wasn't a role, like the persona of what a Scrum Master should be. And I did the work, I did the delivery work. I was in the trenches with the teams. I've got all the stories to prove those experiences, and I'm always going to be grateful to them.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. And, with Scrum, I must admit, you kind of hit the nail on the head. I was drawn to Scrum purely from that kind of value aspect of how Scrum is. And I'm going to ask you, which value is your favourite, or which value comes to you the most, would you say, when you think about Scrum and you think about the values?
I'll be honest with you.
Would you, yeah.
The only one so if this was a test, I'd probably fail it because I wouldn't be able to recite all of them.
Yeah.
The one that's the most memorable or sticks out to me is just respect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it just feels like the most obvious thing that you can give to people, but there are some behaviors in the workplace which are just not respectful, shall we say.
I think I agree with you. I think respect is probably up there.
Just the basic decency to acknowledge someone for their capability and the skill that they bring, and just respect them for the fact that they're there from merit, not from circumstance, not from luck.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I really don't like, is when people try to attribute, because I've had it before as well, with my business and so forth. People would try to assume or make comments about it, the success that I had being attributed to some kind of external force or some kind of fortune.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can give me a little bit more respect than that.
Yeah.
Because when I'm up till 2 a.m. working 7 days a week, I don't think luck has anything to do with it.
Yeah.
That's the graft. That's the hard work. And even if you don't rate my capability, you should at least respect the work ethic towards being able to bring that to life. So respect is a big thing.
It's a big thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely. I remember I was so drawn to the Scrum Master's behaviour as a business analyst back in the day. And I just remember thinking, I'd love to do that role. And one day I got the opportunity to do it. And it's quite frightening. It's quite a frightening role in the sense of, you've got a responsibility.
I mean, the two values I leaned on the most when I was a Scrum Master is optimism and resilience. Because when you are trying to operate in the capacity of someone who doesn't have authority through title or position, you need the resilience to be able to handle those days when things don't necessarily go the way you want them to. And you have to have the optimism to believe that it's going to get better.
Yeah.
And those two values are pretty much what's guided me. They've been like my axes.
Yeah, totally get it. Yeah.
When I've lost both of them, they've been the biggest signals to me as to I'm not effective in this system anymore.
Yeah.
I would need to move on.
Yeah.
So you need a level of hope, but not blind hope. So you still need the optimism to believe that, what you're trying to do, the classic stuff, around, you want to build high performing teams, you want to build capability, you want to be able to get self-organizing, you want all of those ideal states that we talk a lot about in the Agile community. You hold on to them. They're still your North Stars. So you need the optimism to still stay aligned to them. But then you need the resilience to face into the fact that not everything is going to go your way. Sometimes you're going to be in a matrixed organization. Sometimes you're going to be in a project-centric environment. Sometimes you're going to have to face into multiple stakeholders, vendors. You're going to have delivery managers, project managers. You're going to have a mixture of elements that don't necessarily conform to the traditional understanding of what you would expect to be in an agile environment.
Yeah.
You might have 20 or 30 people teams. That's the,
Yeah.
you know, you need the resilience to be able to face into these things.
Yeah.
Sometimes these environments just are not designed to accommodate the ways of working or the thinking that we would want them to be like. So having the resilience to be able to face into them, to meet people where they're at,
Yeah.
to take the next best action as opposed to what you would expect to happen. Sometimes the smallest move can be the biggest one.
Yeah. So you've kind of like, maneuvered in this pathway of agile and business, and, how do we kind of create that level of collaboration between organizations and businesses where not everybody fully grasps agile and scrum? So using that language, I've almost had to stop using that language and use a bit of a common language. So how have you kind of found, as you've kind of maneuvered through your career and business?
I mean, it's going to sound a bit cliche because you've probably heard this 1,000 times. Agile is not the goal.
Yeah.
You hear that a lot, right? It sounds great. You can put it on a mug, t-shirt. It will look fantastic.
Yeah.
So the question I always follow up is, what is the goal then?
Yeah.
It's all good and well saying agile is not the goal, but then how much time do we actually invest in trying to find out what these organizations are trying to achieve? I think that's what drew me to OKRs the most.
Yeah, what's OKRs? Because maybe people don't know what OKRs are.
OKR stands for Objective and Key Results, which doesn't sound like the most glamorous of terms. It sounds quite robotic, doesn't it? Objectives and Key Results.
Yeah, it sounds important though.
For modern organizations, very much so. For a strategy mechanism that was created in the 70s, the relevancy is quite high, particularly within complex domains, especially when you're thinking about user activities, like the things that you can't necessarily predict.
Yeah.
OKRs are quite great in that sense because you're essentially starting with the outcome.
Right.
So what's the change that you're actually trying to drive?
Yeah.
So even if we take the example of the agile is not the goal, tell me what the goal is, because depending on where you are in a business, the level of clarity that you may have around the strategy, what time horizon you're working towards, your goal will look different. It might be around building capability. It might be about increasing market share. Tell me what the purpose is, because once I understand the purpose, then what we can do is try to codify that strategy in a way that everyone can understand.
Yeah.
Great. Next step, then we can try and build an operating model to be able to service that outcome and that purpose. Because that's one of the other challenges that people face, is that they keep shifting priorities and purposes, but they never really augment the way they operate in terms of capabilities to be able to service that purpose. So OKRs was a really great vehicle for me. It exposed me to a lot of strategic thinking. It exposed me to C-level operators, different paradigms, different interests, the way a CTO will differ their perspective to a chief operating officer in regards to, one's looking for innovation and growth, the other one might be looking for resilience and coherence at the center of a business for maintaining standards, practices, and so forth. So how do you get all of these different personalities, different interests, and how do you give them a coherent set of outcomes that they can all necessarily align around and not diverge too far from one another? It's tricky.
Yeah.
It's the inevitable conundrum. And then when we speak about agility, what role does that play when you've got all these other agendas in the mix, right? Because when you're delivering at the coalface and you're trying to get things out for the users and for the business, the speed and efficiency around the way you do that, the learnings that you take, how is that then surfaced up in the business? How is that taken as a signal or an anchor through which to adapt the way you work? So there's lots of different aspects to pulling these systems together. But I've been fortunate enough to be able to work in different size organizations from the top to the bottom, trying to understand how strategy connects. I feel like I'm going into a bit of a boring trajectory now. I'm going to stop myself there because I'm going to sound.
It's good that you're recognizing it yourself, because I really want to know, how important is it to understand the organization from the levels that you've had the opportunity to understand them. So, back in the day, a lot of people would join maybe, I don't know, support desk type of positions, or, project which had a finite start and end. And you've had the opportunities you've had, which have been immense. How important is that for people to really get to grips with?
I would say for everyone I meet now, whenever they ask me for advice, so this could be a Scrum Master, an Agile coach, could be a PM, BA, whoever. Probably easier for BAs, but understand the business, learn the business. And I don't just mean in terms of the org chart, I mean in terms of what does a business do and how does it fulfill on its purpose against whatever service or capability it's delivering to a customer.
Yeah.
Can you understand the mechanics? Because for all of those things you end up questioning, or you end up querying, or even at times complaining about, they all serve a purpose.
Yeah.
So if you were to broaden your perspective and just say, from an objective place, can I understand why this thing exists? So before I berate it or get frustrated by it, or even at times be a victim of it.
Yeah, totally.
Can I understand why it exists here? Because the more you can understand the business, the commercial levers, why things are the way they are.
Yeah.
Right? You can have a heavily matrixed organization that's driven through funding mechanics, where it's one whereby, I'll give you a classic example. Technology is treated like a consultancy or a vendor. You're in a commercial part of the business that has budget. They have budget. It's all the same money at the end of the day, but because of the way it's divvied up, it gets treated separately. And then inevitably you get a client-vendor relationship occurring within the business. Same organization. Now, you could be a project manager or a Scrum Master or an Agile coach within one part of that business, suffering from the fact that you can't get the levels of collaboration that you would like from the other areas of the business. Now, those aren't inherently occurring because people don't want to do it, right? There is systemic issues which sometimes are just more endemic of the environment than they are of any particular person not wanting to act or behave in a certain way.
Yeah.
You need to understand the incentives and the drivers in the business. Now, using a really crude example like that just makes my point easier to illustrate.
Definitely.
I'm sure there's more complex scenarios to work within,
definitely.
but coming back to the piece of advice, understand the business. What does the business do? How does the business define success? What products and services? How do they go to market? Who are their end user? If you can understand that, I think it's one of the greatest ways to be able to build empathy with anyone in the business. So you don't come across as being someone who just talks about process.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you can understand the commercial levers and say, right, how are we making users' lives better?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Have that conversation, because I think it will open a lot more doors for collaboration than you're not keeping this meeting to 15 minutes.
Yeah, I like that very much. I like that. So, Tan, you've kind of covered a lot of stuff. No, not waffle, but a lot of deep, meaningful stuff. When I met you through a Scrum Lab session one Saturday. I think we all hooked up and we were in that place in London.
Yeah.
I think it was a room in one of the pubs where Tobias
Hammersmith,
in Hammersmith. And it was because of you that I found the coaching modality that I've gone with, the Coaching Institute. How would you say, looking back and looking at what you've learned and everything, how important was learning a bit about systems, learning a bit about archetypes, just everything really that you learn? How important was that, do you think?
Well, for the viewers, I'm a certified ORSC coach, which is Organizational Relationship Systems Coaching. So not the easiest way to introduce myself at networking events or dinner parties, but it's a big part of my identity, going on that journey, learning all the content, learning from really incredible people like Nari McMahon, who is incredible. If anyone has the opportunity to ever meet her,
she's amazing.
She is amazing. One of my favorite human beings. Going on that journey, meeting everyone in that curriculum and that space has helped shape who I am today.
Yeah.
I think there are aspects of ORSC that where I'm not directly using it in a coaching relationship with someone, it is heavily influential in the way I lead. So, and when I say lead, I mean in any context, whether I'm leading a workshop, leading a business, leading a team, those ORSC competencies, the tools, the mindset, the approach, the ability to be able to look at a social system from a systemic lens, to like not look at individuals in isolation but look at the group. Learning to trust the group, that the wisdom is already present within them, and how to tap into that wisdom. Within the ORSC language, we call it the third entity. It's this collective wisdom. We've all probably experienced this at times, right? You can walk into a room, no one says anything, but you can already sense that it's quite tense, right? No one's named it, but you can all feel it.
Yeah.
It's that collective wisdom that when we are training as ORSC coaches, we learn to work with.
Yeah.
Right? So it's very much shaped.
Yeah.
It's shaped who I am today. I mean,
totally, yeah.
I'm grateful for the experience. I don't think I'd be who I am today if I didn't go on that journey.
I'm grateful to you, because I wouldn't have followed if I hadn't met you, because you demonstrated a lot of the tools and techniques, and I was just blown away by the power of it. I used something similar.
Yeah, I was gonna apologize when you said that I inspired you, because it's one of those things. As fantastic as it is, sometimes you can't unsee what you see, right? So
absolutely,
it does come with the burden of knowing as well. So.
It does, but I think it's also the maturity. I mean, I've met Scrum Masters in the past who are very energetic, very happy. I mean, I'm a very happy bunny, but actually, if you walk into a room and there's just like the atmosphere is tense, or the atmosphere is, or if the atmosphere is dead, you've got to recognize and acknowledge, what event am I at? You could be at a funeral, and acting high is not good, because it's like understanding a bit more and tapping into that third entity is quite beneficial.
I think turning up to a funeral and being like that is generally not advised, is it?
It's not advised at all.
No.
So we're going to move on. And I'm going to ask you a 60-second question, because you've covered so much already. Like, you've gone in deep,
Yeah.
Because you're not a shallow person. That's the thing.
I appreciate that. But I did say waffle, right? So.
But okay, so let's ask you a little bit of 60-second, humor type questions. So if you had a chance to change your job title, change your title to match your personality, what would it be? You can't say Chief of Waffle. I'm just going to clear that now. What if you had a chance, what would it be?
So if I could change my job title?
Yeah, if you could change your job title and it matches your personality, what would you choose?
And I've got 60 seconds.
You got to be sincere, man. Come on.
I'm always sincere.
Yeah.
I'm just
what comes to mind.
I'm just not that great when you put me on the spot like this. I'm feeling the pressure right now. What I would say is my title would be I wouldn't say chief, because I never liked the word chief.
I
But
think that suits you.
what, being a chief?
Yeah, I think so.
Um,
Because you got that wisdom that a chief has.
but we spoke about this before. Wisdom just means you make a lot of mistakes.
Right? It's all right. You look
What, chief mistake maker?
chief cameraman. Let's stick with that.
Chief cameraman.
Because you got the lens, you can see things.
You know what? I'd probably say boss man.
Boss man, then. Okay.
Yeah, because I used to get called boss man a lot when I was younger.
Did you?
Yeah. Everyone just seems to call, yeah.
Boss man's here.
Yeah, because growing up, my father used to own a takeaway, so whenever people used to come in, they'd be like, boss man.
Lovely.
Yeah, so I could be boss man.
I like that.
I think I fit, like the face fits to be like a boss man. So if I could change my title, I wouldn't mind being called boss man in the office.
Nice. You heard it here first, folks. Brilliant. And is there any app, one single app on your phone that you know you should delete but you never will?
The only app on my phone that I get tempted to delete, but I know I never will, is probably the Arsenal app.
Oh.
The reason why I get tempted to delete it is when we have a bad game or when I get frustrated with the team. I really want to delete it, but I know I never will, because being an Arsenal fan is I'm not going to call it a journey, but it's a very complicated relationship.
Oh.
If we were trying to think about it in an Orsk way,
Okay.
mine and Arsenal's third entity is very, very complicated.
Oh, wow.
Not recently, though. Recently, it's been quite good.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going through a good stretch, but
Nice.
historically, it's not been the greatest.
Yeah. Bless.
But we're going to turn it around this year, and we're going to win the league. You heard it here first. So yeah, it's getting better.
Cool stuff.
So that's the one app that
That you.
if I ever
very
feel
interesting.
tempted to delete,
Yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. I like that. I really do.
yeah, it's a personal connection. right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's a real personal connection.
Yeah, I can't delete it because the emotional weight of deleting it, I will regret it straight away and download it again and sign in.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the UI is not the greatest, so I don't want to go through the trouble of having to
Yeah.
reinstall it.
Yeah, no, fair enough. That's wise. You see, that's wise. So coming back to your kind of current position and, your current industry
Yeah.
and, what would you say you do? So if somebody said, well, what does he actually do? What do you do? What would you say that your kind of, that capability is, in terms of, what is it that you...
It's a really interesting question. Doesn't it feel like it should be easy to answer?
I said that to somebody the other day. I said, I don't know what I do. I do all of these things.
Yeah.
It's tricky, isn't it? But I think we do have labels. I mean, there are specific labels when you look at organisations where people have certain titles, chief operating officer, chief technology officer, chief financial officer. I mean, you can remove the chief, but the second bit really gives you the domain kind of area. What would you say your domain is?
I think at the highest level, it's change. But what's interesting about your question is I recently posted about this on LinkedIn as well.
Mm-hmm.
Being asked the question, like, what is it that you do?
Mm.
And your first answer is always the worst answer you're ever going to give, because whatever you end up saying is just never going to make any sense.
Yeah.
So, in my example, I said I stop small problems from becoming big ones.
I thought that was a brilliant answer, though, Tan. I just thought, if we could even look at that for 1 second and take something from it, it's to say how much respect we have in terms of, whatever we do, to, we're giving it something of meaning.
I mean, in essence, it's true.
Yeah.
But it doesn't fit within a particular job title. So it's always hard to articulate, because when you look at what you do on a day-to-day basis, so I don't know if this experience is similar for yourself. I had to learn this when I had the business. So I had to wear multiple hats. So you'll be transitioning from like product manager to project manager to agile coach to business analyst to office manager to personal assistant to someone else in the team. Like you'll wear multiple hats. So it's a really difficult question to answer, because what you inevitably find yourself doing on a day-to-day basis is not that binary to say, you know, my role is X and I do Y, because you'll find yourself having to do lots of things. You'll do the explicit parts of your job, which is all going to be based on your own capability and your own knowledge and your own wisdom and skill set. But then there's a bunch of other roles that you're having to do. Sometimes you just need to be that helpful teammate. Sometimes you need to be that friendly voice that someone just needs to hear, or you have to be the person that someone can vent to. Those are all different roles. They're different jobs.
Absolutely, right?
They all contribute towards maintaining the culture in an organization, and sometimes you're not even consciously aware that you're playing all those roles.
So the context that you're, you know, talking about is like when you built your business, your consultancy, and you had to basically do all of these roles, and you had such a huge. Not only did you have responsibility, you had accountability, and absolutely, you know, respect to you in terms of doing that, going through it. I remember chatting with you during the pandemic. I mean, I've spoken to you loads, but, you know, just taking that risk of doing it and opening a door for yourself where you had to do all of these things. So, so complete respect to you. And
thank you. I think there's if there was something to share about that experience, is one of my favorite quotes is nothing becomes nothing. So if I do nothing, then I'll have nothing to worry about.
That is good.
But I wanted to do something.
I love that.
So it was an inspiration at that moment in time, especially with my business partner, Mike Howarth. That we just wanted to do something different. We wanted to build a brand. We wanted to build an identity. We wanted to try and challenge the status quo of the industry that we were in. So we gave it our all. And I mean, in terms of jobs, I was the cleaner. I was the CEO. I was all kinds of things. I was the runner in the office. When we first started out, I was building desks. So I don't know what that would make me.
Boss man.
Yeah. You know what? I think boss man is the best thing, because it's like the Swiss Army knife of organizations, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
It's like, you know, we need to build a desk, or someone needs to go and make who do you call boss man?
I've seen directors do stuff like, I've seen big chief people coming in on a Saturday, you know, what was I doing there on a Saturday? Well, I was doing a similar thing, helping out. But, you know, I've seen people who just roll their sleeves up. No, you know, it's a good attitude, I think. It really is.
I mean, it's look, I think just as an individual, as a person, I don't shy away from graft. I'll put the work in. I'm not someone who is inflated by ego, like those kind of things. Just, it doesn't matter. If something needs to be done, I will do it. I don't care about I don't care who I am in that moment, other than the person that just needs to do something. So I think it's, I've got no judgment whether someone does or doesn't. It just, my own personal stance on it is that, you know, if I need to make a coffee, I'll go make a coffee. I don't care.
Totally.
Where I am. Which I think is part of the attitude for rejecting the status quo again, when we were kind of setting the business up, trying to be something a bit different.
I think times have changed a lot, just from, you know, what we see out in the world. Not only the influx of AI and any other kind of automation, I think people really do see value in people helping. I think that's what I've seen myself, and I think it's just notable. If we want to have a better society, there's nothing more meaningful and better where, you know, people are helping to make something better.
I mean, you're seeing it. There's lots of things happening in the world. I think one of my easiest examples to give is like the B Corp movement.
Yeah, that was great. Yeah, that's...
Yeah. So my consultancy was a B Corp as well.
Yeah.
And I would say, looking back on the experience, that was one of my biggest milestones
Yeah.
in terms of achievement.
Yeah.
Being able to have the recognition of that status
Yeah.
was really important to me. It was
Yeah.
a big driver in the business. You could argue B Corp now, is it still holding on to the same sentiment and values? I think it's debatable to people, but in terms of what the idea represents and what it shows in terms of societal shifts of moving from just purely profit to also purpose and outcomes, how many other mechanisms do we have in society like that? So I'll take it as a positive.
Yeah.
I'll get behind it. Any company that's willing to wear the badge and go through the effort, because it's not easy, I can tell you that much. We had to go through so many different rounds of rigor and change. We even had to change our articles of association.
Wow.
So like going to, when we talk about the business, that goes to the core of the business, because the articles of association is basically what defines all of the director responsibilities. So the fact that the B Corp intervention goes so systemically deep into the organization, how can you not see it as a positive? And it's the mental model just shifts towards, we want to be a bit more purpose-led, focusing on all the different activities around sustainability, inclusion. It forces you, right? It's an agitation. It forces you to look at those things. Not to say that you didn't have an interest in them before, but the fact that it's making you look at those things is making you aware of what else there is out there, and how, if you had to reposition your business, what direction you could potentially go in. Because as you mentioned, the younger generations, they're paying attention to these things. They want to know what you're about. Like the classic 9 to 5 just doesn't suit them anymore.
No.
Gosh, I feel so old saying that. The youngsters,
youngsters.
Back in my day, am I at that stage already? Gosh.
So give us a little bit of kind of personal kind of your own wisdom and work-life. How do you define success for yourself?
Honest answer, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what success looks like, because to define success, it feels like a ceiling.
Okay. Yeah.
And I don't know what ceiling I've got.
Got it. Yeah.
I've got walls and I've got hurdles, and I mean, society has thrown enough of them at me.
Oh.
But I don't know what success would look like, because we live in a world now where things just turn on the, they turn on a coin, don't they? Like
very quick as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So what would success mean? What does success look like?
Yeah.
Does success have, who is success? What is success?
Yeah.
I mean, you can get really cerebral with these things.
You can actually. Yeah.
What would it mean for me? Yeah, I honestly, I don't know.
I remember when you were, at one of many, and I came in to see you, popped in with my daughter one day, and we had a look at your offices. I was blown away. I was like, wow, they look amazing. And then you said, oh, we've moved. We were downstairs. We've moved upstairs now. And you even, you were so generous. You offered one of your meeting rooms for myself and Jenny to do workshops. And that was just, so kind of you. And you also had like a little recording studio for podcasts. And yeah, and I'm just kind of thinking, success, you build something, it may not work, but then you've actually experienced something, and that's probably more valuable than anything else, because like you said at the beginning, nothing is nothing. So yeah, I guess the fact that you've come all this way for this interview as well. Yeah. So I really do appreciate that.
What's interesting in what you're saying is it reminds me of two things. The first is, and you'll know this from the ORSC training, Magic is no more than a change in consciousness, right? So your perspective on things can fundamentally change your perception on everything. If you just, if you were to look at the situation from a different lens.
Yeah.
And I think one experience in particular, especially when I was younger, and this is from Gem, I was having a really tough time with a particular manager, and I wasn't in the best place. It was really, really toxic, really draining me out.
Yeah.
And Jem said to me, you can look at it this way. Some people will pay to be in the position that you're in, to have that experience, because it's so rich with information that if you were to change your perception of that person and say to yourself, this toxic manager is actually a really good teacher.
Yeah.
And they're going to give me a lot of knowledge, and they're going to give me a lot of skills. So I should actually be kind of grateful for the experience.
Yeah.
Which obviously at the time I was just like, what the hell are you talking about? Like,
what load of nonsense.
Yeah. No, they're really bad to me. They're mean. Yeah. But in hindsight,
yeah,
in hindsight, you can glean all those lessons, and those things they make you stronger. They give you more knowledge, more capability. I wouldn't necessarily call that success, but I would definitely call it growth.
Yeah.
And is me being successful in a more perpetual state more important than success itself?
Yeah.
Then I would attribute that to growth.
Yeah.
As long as I'm growing and I'm learning, those are fundamentally like important markers of what success may look like if I had to try and answer it now. But honestly, I don't know.
No, I don't know. Well, I've got to say that for me, success is that you're sitting here and we're chatting, because I know a while ago it was like, oh no, I'm not ready, but you're here, and for me that's success. And I think you're just such a brilliant human being from the bottom of my heart. Even when you've been so incredibly busy, you've given me time. So thank you.
We have to pay it forward, right? I think when you come from our community, our community has a lot of great qualities to it. And sharing has definitely been one of them. So even when you were mentioning earlier about the space that I had, that was all done with the vision that I wanted to create a hub and give people the opportunity to be able to come into my space and use it.
Yeah.
Because the Agile community has been fantastic at helping me develop my own capabilities.
Yeah.
And I've always felt a sense of not making it transactional. Like I don't need to pay people back, but I've always wanted to pay it forward because, the more and more we help one another, the more and more we're going to have a bigger impact on the world of work.
Yeah.
The more we're going to try and help these environments change for the better.
Definitely.
The more we're going to be able to find opportunities to even expand our own regime of capabilities.
Definitely.
So it's a really important point. So I'm glad that I was able to do that for you.
Thank you.
And I'm grateful for your feedback.
Thank you, Tan. Well, that's all we've got now, time. But thank you so much. And gosh, I got a bit emotional then, guys. I really do hope that you enjoyed this episode. It meant the world to me to have Tan on the show. And I look forward to you guys joining next time. Until then, take care. Thank you so much.
Thank you.